Okay, how is the Turnbull government travelling a month after the overthrow of first-term Prime Minister Tony Abbott? Have things changed much? My studio guest is a former Abbott advisor in the Howard government. Terry Barnes, good evening.
Good evening, Derryn.
Now, it's I said in my opening editorial that there's this balancing act for Malcolm Turnbull, because you've got the very conservative, some of the conservative Abbott supporters who don't trust him and don't like him and are scared he's too progressive and will pull them too far this way. And you've got all these other people who think, wow, Turnbull's in there now, he's going to do wonders on climate change and same-sex marriage and da-de-da, and they could be disappointed. So how does he keep all those balls in the air?
Well, it's a tough job for him, Derryn, and I think, to be fair, and as you say, I'm an Abbott advisor, so you can assume that I'm one of the last of the Abbott loyalists. Yeah. But I think for the first month he's done a reasonable job of keeping that broad church together. And it's not just the Liberal Party broad church, but it's the electorate broad church as well. The small C Conservatives who actually were quite happy with Tony Abbott, who need to be persuaded that Malcolm Turnbull is not the leader that he was in 2008, 2009, when the Liberal Party was in opposition. Now, it's going to be a real challenge for him over the next few months, particularly while this honeymoon period is going on. And the latest poll, the Ipsos poll that we've just heard about, shows that his numbers are getting better and better. It's going to be important for him to remember that he is the leader of a broad church, and that his parliamentary party particularly needs to be persuaded that he is the man. Now, he's doing well. I can't deny that.
Yeah.
But the challenge for him is to prove that he can do more than talk the talk.
Okay, take it further and broaden it out from just the Liberal Party and the people some who felt betrayed because Abbott was rolled. You've also got the electorate at large, where Turnbull could pull some people away from, who are not really affixed to the Labor thing, the independents and others who think, well, Turnbull's progressive, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. Well, but if he doesn't do the things that they hope he'll do, they won't come with him. So there's a large chunk of people out there who maybe will be disillusioned by by Turnbull if he doesn't move fast enough.
Well, that's true. And actually, the news poll last Monday asked the question, do you approve of Tony Abbott being rolled by Malcolm Turnbull? And I think it was about 82% of Green voters said it was a great thing, 70% of Labor voters said it was a great thing. I think it was 56% of Liberal or coalition voters said it was okay. And I think if that went to Liberal Party membership, the number would be even lower still. So the further to the left of the spectrum you are, the greater Malcolm Turnbull's re-emergence has been. So I'm
surprised that a lot of people in the Labor Party would be happy with Turnbull rolling Abbott, because I saw Husick was saying today that admitting that the Labor Party hoped to keep Abbott there. They thought he was an easier target than Turnbull would ever be, as it's proving.
Well, I think the issue here with those news poll numbers, Derryn, is that a lot of those people think that Malcolm Turnbull is a great thing, but they will never vote for a Liberal government or for the Liberal Party. So a lot of that is support that's not guaranteed electoral support. What he needs to do is nail in the sensible centre. And that's on the centre left and the centre right.
Now, he hasn't, on same-sex marriage, I mean, he's embraced now, which he didn't before, the plebiscite, which now, so virtually the party, whether they want to or not, is locked into the plebiscite after the next election.
That's right.
There's a lot of people outside the Liberal Party who thought that the government, the Parliament rather, should have handled same-sex marriage. Is that totally off the table now? I suppose it is.
Well, I think what he has said is that he accepts what the parliamentary party has decided, particularly on same-sex marriage and the plebiscite. He may personally disagree with it, but he's accepting this is where the majority wants to go with this. And I think he's actually recognising that the grassroots of the Liberal Party are more inclined in that direction as well. So he has started off recognising that broad church. I can't say that often enough. It's important that he appeals to his base as much as to those voters in the centre.
I must admit that in this time frame, I've sort of changed a bit. I think that a plebiscite's probably a good idea. It's such an important issue to a lot of people, and there are some religious groups bitterly opposed to it. So a plebiscite will at least be a fair way, like the Irish, put it down, I think it's too far away, but put it down the track and have the vote, and then I still suspect it'll be 70-30 in favour of it, but at least the people can say, well, they put it to the vote and we had our say.
Well, I think that's right, and I think that's something that most people can understand and live with. I mean, the result will be final, definitive, and that'll be the end of it.
All right, let's look at the report card for the Cabinet. Josh Frydenberg's in the news today because he's saying there's I think I'm paraphrasing a bit, a strong moral case for for the coal mines. Is that a bit strange? Hard thing to defend, isn't it?
Well, I mean, basically, coal is one of our biggest industries. You may not like it, or many people may not like it. My green voting wife certainly doesn't like it, but it's very important to the overall economy. And he is basically now the Minister for Energy, as well as the Minister for Northern Australia. But the important thing here, Derryn, is that Frydenberg was an Abbott voter. He supported Abbott in the ballot, and he is prepared to get behind Turnbull as the new leader and work with him as a member of the team. And I know from talking to other cabinet ministers who voted for Abbott as well that they're prepared to give Turnbull a go, even though they voted against him.
Well, because, I mean, but surely it's an economic, if you're going to argue economically that coal is still a huge, important thing for Australia, to start talking about the millions of poor Indians who need it and they're going to suffer without it, when in fact most of the Indians he's talking about, people in India, wouldn't have access to electricity anyway, even with or without coal.
Yeah, but surely it's important to keep coal and other traditional sources of energy and keep those industries going, but we can still look at nuclear. Well, that's probably a bit too much for some, but certainly look at renewables. There's so much that can be done there, and I've noticed that one of the signals the government under Turnbull has sent out is that the renewable sector is actually okay again. So I think if you're looking at the broad range of energy options, which I think is what Josh is on about, he's actually singing from the right hymn sheet.
Okay. Now, one of the reasons that, the strong reasons why Tony Abbott got rolled was because it was the Treasurer, Joe Hockey. And you see Abbott and Hockey sitting on the back bench together there along with Andrews. Scott Morrison as the new Treasurer, he hasn't been sounding much different than what Abbott and Hockey were saying about the economy, has he?
No, I think that's right. But I think there is something about Scott Morrison that is more politically astute than Hockey. He's a better salesman. He gets around his brief a lot better.
He's not going to say that poor people don't drive, or is he?
Precisely. And I think, to be honest, appointing either Morrison or Turnbull is something that Abbott should have done after the non-spill motion earlier in the year. If Abbott had restructured his government and restructured his back office for that matter back then, I don't think he would be in the position he is in today, nor would Turnbull.
Because by the loyalty of holding, I don't rehash it all, by the loyalty of holding on to Hockey, etc., and yet when the chips were down on that Monday, 4 weeks ago tomorrow, reportedly he was prepared to dump Hockey and put Morrison in there when the chips were down.
Well, when you look at it, Morrison won either way, didn't he? So he could vote for Abbott, knowing that whoever won would be the Treasurer. Look, that's politics, or as Malcolm Turnbull said it, it's just business, not personal. But I think it was an opportunity missed by Abbott to get things right after that February near-death experience.
As a former Abbott man, do you think the far right of the party will ever forgive Turnbull? They think he's sort of like Rudd-like, plotting and plotting and plotting. Do you think they'll ever forgive him, or will they, as Peter Costello told me, they like winners. The Liberal Party likes winners, so they'll in the end move that way?
Well, I think that's very true. The Liberal Party does like winners, but I think the reaction to Turnbull being rolling Abbott has been very strong in certainly the right of the party, as you say. But I think from the point of view, look, as I said, I'm an Abbott loyalist. I respect Tony. I think he could have been so much better in the job than he was allowed to be. But the thing is that I prefer to see a coalition government compared to a shortened Labor government. And I will mourn and grieve Tony's demise, but I will work with the team. And I think all Liberals should work with the team to make sure that Labor does not get back.
Well, they wouldn't be stupid enough, would they, to go to do a Liberal version of the DLP. They're not going to break away with an ultra-right-wing party. Cory Bernardi says he won't, but they wouldn't do that, would they?
I think anybody who looks at that as an option would be mad, frankly. Basically, we need a strong, broad church Liberal Party with a progressive wing and a conservative wing.
But as I said in my opening editorial, if that move were afoot, I think the person talking most strongly against it, apart from John Howard, would be Tony Abbott, because he is a born and bred Liberal, and he wouldn't do anything to hurt the party.
Oh, absolutely. I think the point you made in your editorial is quite right. I mean, he would not do anything to hurt the party. And I think at the Liberal State Council in New South Wales last week, when Turnbull was being heckled Abbott took the microphone and actually called for unity and said we have to work with the now Prime Minister and make sure that we do not elect Labor. And Abbott is a loyal team man. It's just sad that he didn't have that loyalty totally returned.
All right. Terry, good to talk to you.
Pleasure, Derryn.
Terry Barnes.